All right, so before we talk about Philip II of Spain, let's review Henry IV of France. Double check your foldable that you made for him. His country, of course, was France. His religion, in the end, was Catholic. Remember, he was leader of the Huguenots, which were Protestants, but he became Catholic so he could become king of France. He had a very moderate religious policy where he recognized Catholicism as a state religion, but gave Huguenots full political and religious rights. He, like I said, was the former leader of the Huguenots. He was the founder of the Bourbon dynasty, which will rule France all the way through the French Revolution. And then he issued the Edict of Nantes, which gave the Huguenots all of those rights. So Henry IV chose a path of religious tolerance in his kingdom. Philip II of Spain chooses a very different path. He is the poster child of militant Catholicism. See, to be Spanish was to be Catholic, which can be weird for us modern Americans because we're so used to freedom of religion. Be Catholic, be Protestant, be whatever you want. But that's a very modern idea. And for the Spanish themselves, Catholicism was part of who they are. It's part of what made them Spanish. For centuries, Spain was largely controlled by outsiders, invaders, the Islamic Moors from North Africa that invaded. You learned about them last year. And it was Philip's ancestors that expelled the Muslims from Spain. They also expelled the Jews from Spain. And it's the religion that united the Spanish people. So to be Spanish was to be Catholic. And Philip II takes this very seriously. In his mind, Spain, therefore Philip, was the defender of Catholicism no matter where it was threatened. This is why Spain fought against the Ottoman Turks, Muslim invaders, when they invaded Eastern Europe. That's on the opposite end of the continent from Spain. Technically, it has nothing to do with Spain. But Philip II and the Spanish fleet, they're going to fight the Battle of Lepanto anyway and fight against them anyway. Why? Because the Catholics in Eastern Europe were threatened. Right? One of Philip II's titles was Most Catholic King. It was one of his official titles, Most Catholic King. He takes it very seriously. And by the way, he won the Battle of Lepanto, which reinforces the idea in his own head that he is the defender of Catholicism wherever it is threatened, that it is his God-given duty to protect Catholicism wherever it is threatened, particularly inside of his own empire, which was very large. Everything in red on the screen belonged to Philip II in Spain. So, of course, there was Spain, there was the Netherlands, there was part of Italy, the Philippines, and Southeast Asia, and as you can see, most of the New World because of the line of demarcation in the Treaty of Tordesillas that we learned about last chapter. But part of his empire had a problem. The Netherlands. The Netherlands is in Europe. And it was one of the wealthiest parts of the Spanish Empire, made a lot of money for Spain through trade, but it's really close to Germany, so it did not take long for Protestantism to spread to the Netherlands, and Philip II cannot tolerate that. Remember, most Catholic king, defender of Catholicism. He cannot let part of his empire become Protestant. He just can't. It's not in him to let that go. Now, we would probably say, don't worry about it because the Netherlands is making us a whole lot of money. Who cares as long as they pay their taxes and follow all the other laws? But that's not how Philip's mind works. And remember, there is no separation of church and state back then. So if your state said you needed to be Catholic, you had to be Catholic. And the Dutch, the people of the Netherlands, they didn't necessarily want to be Catholic anymore. At least some of them didn't. So Philip II begins to persecute the Protestants in the Netherlands. So they rebel. And this was a violent rebellion. This was a vicious rebellion between where Catholics and Protestants fought each other. In fact, Philip II sent one of his top generals, the Duke of Alva, to take care of the problem. And the Duke of Alva, his nickname was the Butcher. It got so bad that even some of the Catholic Dutch ended up siding with the Protestant Dutch because the violence was so horrendously bad. Also, there were political reasons. Many of the Dutch didn't want to be part of the Spanish Empire anymore anyway. Why should they have to pay their taxes to the Spanish Empire when those taxes could stay inside the Netherlands? Now, eventually, the Dutch will find themselves aided by the English. We'll talk more about that when we talk about Queen Elizabeth I of England. Now, eventually the Dutch will become led by a man named William the Silent. also known as William of Orange. And he's going to lead the Dutch resistance in this war, in this rebellion against Philip II. And eventually the Dutch will win. Eventually the Dutch will win. The Netherlands will become independent and create their own empire for a little while, based on trade, particularly the spice trade of Southeast Asia. So at the end of the day, Philip II in Spain, they're going to lose the wealthiest part of their empire because of religious intolerance. Now, it does not end well for William the Silent. He'll be assassinated by a radical Catholic militant, but his descendants will be very important later on in the school year. So here's Philip II. When he passes away, the Spanish Empire was still the largest empire on the planet, but it was weaker than it was when he first took over. He spent a lot of money on wars, fighting the Turks, fighting against the Dutch, and eventually the Dutch, as I said, will gain their own independence. So even though when he passed away the empire was large, it was weaker. That intolerance cost him, both literally and figuratively. It cost him real money, and it cost Spain power and influence. So to review Philip II, his country, of course, is Spain. His religion was Catholic, and his religious policy was very extreme. You had to be Catholic. And he fought the Battle of Lepanto and won. He persecuted the Netherlands, and as we are going to learn very soon, he even tried to invade England, because remember, England helped the Dutch rebel against Spain. Also, the English were Protestant, and he didn't like that because he is a militant Catholic.